Okay, I'm here today on Friendly Fire with David Swanson, who's author of a very good book that I might want to promote. I suggest people read it. Daybreak, Undoing the Imperial Presidency and Forming of a More Perfect Union. David, despite his youthful looks, has got quite a resume. Press secretary for Dennis Kucinich's 2004 presidential campaign. Served 3 years as the communications coordinator for Acorn. Well-known activist out there getting people involved. Gadfly? Would you call yourself a gadfly?
Sure. I don't plan on killing myself the way Socrates did, but otherwise, yeah.
So one of your points, though, I think is again, I'll lead into more extensive questions. Is A, you want to maybe irritate government to a certain point to get them to respond, and you want to get people involved, because as I look around America today, this is mine, you can respond to this. I see a government that doesn't listen anymore, basically, to us. It kind of ignores us. And on the other side of that coin, I see apathetic populace that just kind of lets things happen.
Yeah, I absolutely. I want to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And we all think, and we're led by various organizations we get involved with for noble purposes, to think that that we have a government that more or less represents us, and it's split into two teams. It's wrong. The teams are us and the government. Just as we're doing this interview, the White House has just instructed the Congress to strip out of its financial regulations bill a measure that might have allowed shareholders to put some restraint on CEO salaries. That was just not permissible. In response to this Citizens United ruling by the Supreme Court for unlimited corporate money in politics, the Democrats in Congress came back with this very, very limited, tame measure that would, the main point of which was to allow us to know who was funding the propaganda, the Disclose Act. Well, Nancy Pelosi just took that out of consideration, at least for the moment, basically at the instructions of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. So, the teams are you and me and the rest of us and elected officials. Those are the two teams. It's not Republicans versus Democrats, because there's just not enough difference between them.
Well, as you point out in your book, though, Daybreak, the government's not really on our team. I mean, what we have in the White House is an Imperial Presidency. You fought Bush, Cheney, and I'm sure at one point, to be truthful here with me, you thought Obama might come in and change some of these things, or did you? Did you remember change we can believe in, which I always thought was an absurd phrase anyway, because you can believe in all change. Hitler made change that you could believe in. Didn't at one point you had to go, well, Obama's going to change some of this stuff.
Well, you can go back and read what I was writing before the election and during the campaigns, and I was pointing out how outrageously horrible Obama was, but I still thought that McCain was worse. And I thought that in Virginia, where we are here, it might be good just for state politics for Virginia, for the first time in its history, to vote for the less racist of the two candidates, and for it to be a black guy. I thought that might do some good for Virginia. So,
and the nation.
And the nation, and I thought that it would send a pretty bad message to the world for us to vote for someone as crazy as John McCain, someone as militaristic, someone as much, and from the same party as George W. Bush, who was, of course, never elected, but people think we elected him twice.
No, Obama's got the biggest war budget since World War II, and he's invested billions of dollars in drones, innocent citizens dying. I mean, he got the Nobel Peace Prize, but he's the war president. What does that say?
In absolute terms, it's the biggest war budget ever, and the biggest military budget ever, and a bigger war budget than Bush and Cheney ever had, and greater war powers and more abusive practices, and we've shifted from capturing people and torturing them to murdering them, including putting American citizens on the list.
So he's continued the Bush civil liberties aggressions on the Constitution.
He has cemented in place those new abusive powers that Bush and Cheney claimed, including ones that he campaigned against, and he's added new ones. Right? He's put in place practices of assassination and murder. He's put in place
assassination of American citizens around the world.
Yes, as long as they are outside U.S. borders, they can be murdered by the U.S. And, you know, if they chase a U.S. citizen into the United States and then murder him or her, we're going to simply be told that that's now legal. I mean, because they simply tell Congress, they sent the Director of National Intelligence to Congress to tell Congress what the law would be now. And the law would now be that murder was legal. So there's a major problem in how things are decided.
Well, you know, the ACLU has come out and blasted Obama for rendition, torturing people. We thought that was going to stop. The nefarious John Yoo and his memos in the White House that advised the president to ignore international treaties against torture, all that stuff. And I know people watching this particular podcast that we're doing right now are going to be surprised because most people aren't aware of how extensive Obama has followed the Bush civil liberties practices, which were anti-constitution. Remember, supposedly George Bush said the Constitution is just a piece of paper. Well, it seems right now that Barack Obama is believing the same thing, and he's acting on it.
Well, he stood in front of that piece of paper in the National Archives and threw out habeas corpus and said, we're going to formalize this policy and set up a
habeas corpus just brings people out of jail cells to go before a judge to plead their innocence.
800-year-old tradition,
Yes.
The basic fundament of our rights as citizens in a republic, that you can't simply be grabbed and locked up without any legal process. Well, of course, Bush did this in ways that his predecessors largely had not, but Obama is making it in every way he can a formal policy that we just won't have habeas corpus. We can lock anybody up from anywhere in the world in Bagram and other places outside of any process, any rule of law, but we'll have routine inspections and reviews and do paperwork and make it seem like something legal. This is something that no one president could have done. It takes two of them. It takes one from each party, and that's what's being done to us by Bush and Obama.